Welcome to Hot Takes on the Classics. Before we begin today's show, kindly go like us on the podcast platform of your choice and follow us on Substack, and also follow us on Instagram. Emily, our Instagram is now managed by your daughter-in-law, and we love what she's doing. She's Instagram is actually kind of interesting. She's a master.
She's a master.
If you want to follow us on Instagram, look for Hot Takes Classics, and you'll find us. You'll find us. Okay, now, on with the show. Ah, my dear angry Lord, since thou dost love, yet strike, cast down, yet help afford, sure I will do the like. I will complain, yet praise. I will bewail, approve. And all my sour sweet days I will lament and love. Welcome to Hot Takes on the Classics, a gossipy gallop through the best books ever written. My name is Tim McIntosh, and that was the poem Bittersweet by George Herbert. And I am joined today, as always, by Emily Maeda for our season on love. This season we are reading literature about love, specifically right now on agape or gift love, love from God. Mm-hmm. Hello, Emily. George Herbert. You warned me that this might be a little bit of a tough podcast for you.
Yeah, I'm going to really try hard not to cry. I'm going to give it my best shot.
Because you find George Herbert's poetry so moving.
Yeah, so moving. And also I've had pretty intense experiences around George Herbert.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can say, because actually it's the same time that I met you. I met my dear friend Christine Perrin while she was giving a lecture on George Herbert at the CiRCE Conference. She gave a lecture on him and she read a bunch of his poetry. And I sat through the entire session bawling my eyes out.
Are you willing, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot to talk at all about kind of what was going on in life?
Yeah. I'm happy to talk about it. She read his poetry, particularly one of the poems. I'm not going to read it today, but it is from the Temple, The Flower. And she just talked about how the poem so reflected his life, that he had been afflicted by so much illness and suffering. And the flower uses the image of like a seed going into the ground and dying, right? But meditating upon what it costs the seed to die and coming to life. And it was in between. My son had just come through cancer treatment, and my husband was about to have a liver transplant, and that conference was in between the two experiences.
Yeah.
And I was feeling George Herbert's agony very personally. So
Emily,
has been, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, you and I met at that conference.
We did.
And we met, this is maybe more than our listeners want to know, but this is just like such a fond memory.
I know.
I just happened to sit down next to you in the very back row of this conference. It was just packed out, the CiRCE conference. It's always packed out. And I happened to sit down next to you, and your husband was going through what you just described with his liver. My dad was dying of cancer, and we were, and it was kind of like by, I don't know, I'm going to put quotes around coincidence, ended up sitting next to each other, and very different people in our lives, but the same awful disease. Plus your son was just recovering. And so we met, and I'm just putting it together that we both attended this lecture on George Herbert by your friend Christine. And I remember sitting, listening to that, and I was completely wrapped, and I knew nothing, next to nothing about George Herbert.
Yeah.
And I remember just thinking, oh my goodness, I need to devote some real time to him.
Yeah. The only thing, and I didn't know it was George Herbert. Strangely enough, I had a hymn book growing up all through my childhood, and Love 3 was in the hymn book. So I
really?
had read that poem many times and loved it. I didn't know it was George Herbert. But in the lecture, I finally put that together, like, oh, that poem. And that poem had been deeply meaningful to me during my son's treatment. So, yeah, there's a lot surrounding George Herbert.
Yeah.
He's, it's personal. I mean, I guess kind of we say that about every book that we talk about, don't we?
Yeah, we do. We do.
I mean, I guess Clausewitz on war doesn't have the same identification.
Yeah, it doesn't. And even Plato, like we might know, like, they're like personal things that we went through, but it's not the same as this is for you.
Yeah, well, and the experiential aspect of poetry, which we are so removed from because in earlier years, I mean, I think about Anne of Green Gables. How much of Anne of Green Gables' young life is centered around her recitation of poetry, right? People used to go and listen to poetic addresses, right? Where people would stand up and speak poems. Like, we don't ever do that,
right.
do we? No. And I mean, we're the worst for it. That's what I think. I think we're the worst for it, that we don't have an experiential experience with poetry, do we?
No. I'm going to just admit it, Emily. When I don't have the patience for poetry.
Oh, that was one of my questions for you. That was one of my
questions. Oh, was
questions.
It really?
Yeah. Can I ask you my question?
I just scooped your question. Please, yeah.
My question is, how often do you read a book of poetry cover to cover? Or how often? Okay, so that's my first question. How often have you ever read a book of poetry cover to cover?
For sure.
Oh. Okay, you're in the minority.
I think so. I mean, it's probably multiple slim volumes of poetry.
Yeah, those are the best. Do you have a favorite?
A favorite poem in general, or a favorite book of poetry?
Because, so maybe this is akin to listening to an album all the way through, something that the younger generation has completely lost. Do you agree with me? No, they never listen to albums. They listen to Spotify, and Spotify mixes everything up. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like an album, an experience of an album from the beginning to the end. There's very important reasons why songs are put where they're put. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
I think it's the same thing with a book of poetry, that if you experience, so I dip in and just read poems, but when you read like a collection front to back, like the poems start talking to each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what's been a book like that for you? A book of poetry?
I hope I pronounced it the right way. The Duino Elegies by Rilke.
Oh.
I remember, and this is a long time ago.
That.
Oh my gosh.
I'll have to.
They're incredible.
I'll have to.
What is T.S. Eliot's Four Quartets?
Oh, right, the Four Quartets. Yeah. Yeah, right.
I've read
Did you do that? Yeah, and that is definitely like an important poem to experience as all of them. I mean, you can, right? Like you get things from it as you read it all the way through.
Yeah. There's an R.S. Thomas collection of poetry.
Nice.
I really liked.
R.S. Thomas a lot. Yeah. Okay. Well,
but
awesome.
I'm running out. I'm like, I can find a couple more somewhere in the memory bank. Yeah.
So the only reason I asked that question was that this week, interestingly enough, on the theme of ill health and suffering, I spent a lot of time at the hospital with my husband because he was having a procedure. So I read George Herbert. I basically read the entire temple during that day. And it was just reminding me of what a beautiful gift that is. I was talking to my daughter's professors at Biola in the Torrey Honors Program. And we had sat in on a session of students discussing John Donne. And it was not well discussed. And so I was talking to the professor afterward, and he said, oh my gosh, we just have these students. They don't have any experiences of poetry. They come to us. They have no idea what to do with poetry. And
can you describe can you describe what happened in the discussion?
In the discussion? Yeah, it was an inability to sit with images. It was, I think when he says da-da-da, he means this. Like, no, he means the da-da-da. He means the hat. Do you remember when Flannery O'Connor says that? Like, when I say the man wore a black hat, he wore a black hat. Like, the idea to abstract symbology, right? Rather than making it more concrete and real. So a complete inability, like trying to get to an abstract meaning outside of the very images that the poetry is giving you. So abstracting it, where like poetry is actually really good poetry, is so concrete. It's giving you images to deal with. No understanding
very specific.
Yes, very specific. Understanding how form, wordplay, all of those sorts of things, right? So this week in reading George Herbert, just sitting with him for a long, extended period of time, I was reminded of what a huge gift it is to read poetry that way. So anybody out there, go read a book of poems cover to cover. It's just not something we don't normally do it. And I don't normally do it. I normally dip in and dip out, but it was reminding me of what a great gift that is.
So Emily, I'm trying to think of other exercises like reading a book of poetry that really reward a long and slow concentration. Like what other activities are like that?
When I was doing it, I was thinking of what you talked about in the Gospel of John. You said to do this with the Gospel of John. Just sit down and read it and accept it on its own terms, right? Yeah. Don't abstract it. Don't go. So I think I was thinking of that.
Don't answer questions that's not really posing. Yeah.
I think listening to an album, I'm just going to put it out there. I think sitting and listening to an album all the way through. It's so funny that we would have to say that that's something that you should do now. But like, come on, the great albums.
Oh, I know. I listened to, while we're on this, re-listened recently to Boxer by The National, which is kind of this breakthrough album for them. Yeah. It's sublime.
Did you listen to it as an album, like all the way
as an
through?
album, very deliberately as an album? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that strikes me is how the kind of mood of the album undulates. It's almost like you get into you're floating on a river, and you go over some rapids, and then you're in a long curving part of the river, and then maybe it's a little bit cold because you're in the shadows for a little bit, and then you're really hot because you're exposed to the sun, and it's 45 minutes. I've heard Tom York from Radiohead describe the album as kind of like it is a really special art form, that it's about 50 to 65 minutes of music, and separating the songs destroys this larger art form that is the album. Yeah. And so I hear you that we tend to kind of anthologize poems, rip them out of the larger collection that they were originally published in, read them as one-offs, and they don't really, I'm trying to just say to you what I hear you saying, they don't really get to work on us.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not that we can't do this, because I do it all the time. I go and read my favorite poems all the time. But I was just noting the different experience it was to read it as an experience, right? It's an experience to sit with it. And that happy thing that also happens in albums, where the poems or the songs speak to one another. And so you get a richer experience of the poem that you love so much in the context of all the other poems that it's coming with.
Right.
So there you go. Let's jump into George Herbert.
Please.
Because he's just, his story is also so moving. Okay, so he's born April 3rd, 1593. And, he's after Shakespeare. He's after Elizabeth. He is into the time of James the First. He is actually born into an aristocratic family. His father was well known. His mother, too, came from a prominent family. But his dad died when he was 3. But now enters somebody who I want to write a biography about, Magdalene Herbert. What a woman. What a woman.
Really?
She's amazing. So she had 10 children. She's still quite young when her husband dies. And she says, you know what? My kids are going to have a great education. So they were in Wales. She moves them back to England. She gets her kids into the best schools. They have a very good education. And by all accounts, she was incredibly intelligent, kind, and very beautiful. John Donne tried to woo her, but she remained very good friends with him. And she was friends with many prominent poets and, the intellectuals of the day. John Donne gave the sermon at her funeral.
Wow.
Yeah. That's cool.
Remind listeners who maybe saw John Donne show up on our podcast feed who he is.
John Donne is another great contemporary poet with Herbert. He's called they're the metaphysical poets, right? Meaning they're dealing a lot with metaphysics, have things beyond this world. But he is unlike. I was speaking with my priest about Herbert because we both love him so much, and he said, John Donne, he suffered a lot, but it was kind of like from choices that he made. John Donne was not a virtuous person before he entered the church. George Herbert suffered a lot, but he was really a deeply devout man his entire life. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there's John Donne. George Herbert had the best education of the time, and he was brilliant. I mean, he went to Cambridge, and he graduated top of his class. He became the orator of Cambridge, a very prestigious role. He was on his way to high government service. It's unclear. I mean, it's probably a combination of a few things. Why he didn't take that route. I mean, it's very clear from what he writes. He felt called to the priesthood. It's also clear that in his role as orator, he was maybe too principled. He spoke out. Really? Spoke some truth to power at different times that maybe didn't make people happy.
Do you remember? Do you know any of the issues that he was speaking about?
I think it's with Charles the First. I believe he was out seeking a strategic marriage, and it didn't work out with the Spanish. And George Herbert said, let's work towards peace. Let's work towards peace. Let's not go towards war. And I think people didn't like that. That was one thing that's pointed out. I mean, there's speculation. So he doesn't pursue high government service, and instead he makes his way falteringly into the priesthood. By that, it didn't materialize quickly. And then not only to the priesthood, but he doesn't serve in one of the big city churches. He goes off to a rural parish. He goes and becomes a country parson. John Donne got thrown out of high government service, became a priest, but then he made sure he found his way back to a prominent church. George Herbert didn't do that.
Yeah.
So he composed poetry throughout his life. He composed both in English and in Latin. He was also partially happy to have a quiet parish because it meant he could write more poetry. The only thing that's published of his during his lifetime is this little booklet called The Country Parson, in which he talked about what you needed to do if you were a parish priest. And it was influential.
Like it's an instruction manual?
Yeah, what it's like to be a country parson, because you fulfill lots of roles as a country parson.
Emily, I got a little curious because he is almost a direct contemporary of Shakespeare, and he lived in the same country. If there is any relationship, his cousin, William Herbert, was a patron of William Shakespeare.
Interesting. Makes sense.
Makes sense.
He was afflicted by bad health his whole adult life. So he wrote this to his mother. But I fear the heat of my late ague. How do you say that word? Auge.
Ague.
Ague.
Is it ague?
hath dried up those springs by which scholars say the muses used to take up their habitations. So he, somebody has sort of tried to reconstruct what it was. Fevers, chills, like he's really sick. But when he's not really sick with the ague, he's sick with other like dietary or digestional complaints. Like he's basically sick his whole adulthood. Oh, and he marries late. And this says, you know, he like it feels like it's dried up his poetry because he's so sick. Yeah. So a lot of his poems that deal with affliction, you know, are often related to matters of ill health that he experienced very deeply. He ends up dying in 1633. He was just 40. So, and it's just a few years after he married. Like he didn't, you know, he didn't get a lot of a break.
Yeah.
So the book that we're going to be talking about, the book of poems, is called The Temple. And it's published posthumously. He gives it to his friend Nicholas Ferrar and says, well, if you think this might be good to somebody, if you don't, just burn it. So Nicholas Ferrar sets about to get it published, and then it was wildly successful. I think there were 20 printings within like a 40-year time period. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he's kind of a rock star. But then, I mean, maybe he falls into a little bit of unknowingness. You know, somebody said recently that, I think it was T.S. Eliot said that he's been like he's foundational to the modern poets. So
really,
that's also interesting. But Gerard Manley Hopkins loved him. Anybody in the know loved him.
So can I make a guess about why more contemporary, more modern poets are excited by George Herbert?
Well, maybe if it doesn't take away my hot take, but you can try.
Oh, I don't want to. Okay,
I'm going to stop you. Go ahead.
Is it? He's very experimental.
Okay, just be quiet,
especially
okay?
for his time.
Just stop.
Oh no! I'm scooping you. My mouth is closed.
Okay, great. We'll come back to that. He counted Saint Augustine as his favorite father in the faith. We just did
friend of the show.
Confessions.
Saint Augustine, friend of the show.
Loved it. And actually, the temple is definitely patterned on the confessional nature of the Confessions, for sure. I mean, he dresses God in a similar way. So, yeah, friend of the show, George Herbert, Saint Augustine. Who are our Virgils? Maybe one of those two. I might choose one of those two. I keep thinking about that question. I think it's a great dinner party question.
It's a great dinner party question.
Okay, so here we come to the temple then. So the temple has 3 parts, and these 3 parts kind of have multiple levels of meaning. So obviously 3, an important Christian's number, the Trinity, right? What other 3? 3 days, Christ's death and resurrection, 3 days. 3's all throughout. Christian narrative.
Old and New Testament, yeah.
Yeah. So let's just talk about some of the 3s that it's the architecture of the temple. So we should think about architecture when we think about this book, because he says the temple, it's a building, right? So then how is this book built? Well, here's the architecture of the temple. So there's 3 parts. The first part is the church porch. And that is a poem. It's kind of a sermon-like, Proverbs-inspired poem. I actually wondered as I was reading it, I think Rudyard Kipling ripped off "If" from this poem because it's very comprehensive. Really? Yeah, I really do. I can't bear that out, but that's just my feeling. Even the meter of it reminds me of "If." But this is before you enter the church, right? This is pre-entering the church. So it has moral principles for a young person. But this is not the heart of worship. So then we enter the church. And the church is the main portion of the temple. So the church could be compared, like if we're thinking about the temple, like in the Old Testament, the church porch is before you enter into the holy spot. It's where you wash, you get prepared, right? Then you come into the holy place, and that's where worship occurs. And then you have the Holy of Holies, which is the third part. So the church is the holy part. And this then can be broken down into sort of 7 groups. And it's really interesting to think about. So from altar to Easter wings, it's the emphasis on Christ's death and resurrection. From holy baptism to holy communion, the focus is upon the sacraments of the church. Then there's a section that begins with antiphon 1 and ends with antiphon 2, and that is the church year and the church itself. And then we have another group that's maybe less cohesive, but it has all of his poems with wordplay. He has so many fun wordplay poems. And then priesthood to Aaron dwells upon the role of the priest. Odor to elixir is the sweetness and fellowship of being with God. And from wreath to love 3, it's dealing with the final things, death, judgment, and heaven.
So it really is. It's like walking into a building
through the church,
like deeper and deeper into more and more like dense sacred spaces.
Exactly. So then the final section is called the Church Militant, and this is a very long narrative poem about the history of the church, and it really is a defense of the via media of Anglicanism and sort of how Herbert saw Anglicanism as fulfilling God's plan within the world. But it takes the church all the way to its final consummation at the last day. So that's sort of the architecture. It's obviously a call to the temple's formation, the outer gates, the holy space, the Holy of Holies. But then there's another way to look at this book of poems. You could also look at it cosmologically, like from a universal standpoint, where the poem moves from the earth up into heaven. So it's kind of like the temple is a horizontal walking through the church. It could also be seen as standing on earth and rising to heaven. So the church porch being very earthly, very sort of concrete things to think about. Coming up into the heavens is the main part of it. And then the church militant is the entry into heaven. So you can see it as both a horizontal movement and a vertical movement.
Interesting.
And then there's also this aspect of it being temporal, that it kind of chronicles the movement of the Christian's life from the very basic things that the church porch deals with. Do this, don't do that. Do this, don't do that. Which is very clear and very easy. Then moving into the more adult phase of somebody's spiritual life that's experiences sin, affliction, worry, despair. You've moved beyond the first things. You're into the hard things. Now those do's and don'ts, they don't matter so much. I mean, they still matter, but they're not answering the deep problems of your heart. And then
is the poem the collar part of that? Part?
Yes,
okay.
It is. And then the final part being, our race has been run. We've attained paradise. So that's also isn't that a beautiful way to look at it as well? Can I read you a poem?
Please.
The glance, which is in the section of the church, sort of writes the poem speaks of this temporal nature. When first thy sweet and gracious eye vouchsafed, even in the midst of youth and night, to look upon me, who before did lie weltering in sin, I felt a surge strange delight, passing all cordials made by any art, bedew, embalm, and overrun my heart, and take it in. There's youth. Since that time, many a bitter storm my soul hath felt, even able to destroy. Had the malicious and ill-meaning harm his swing and sway, but still thy sweet original joy, sprung from thine eye, did work within my soul, and surging griefs, when they grew bold, control and got the day. Midlife. If thy first glance so powerful be, a mirth but opened and sealed up again, what wonders shall we feel when we shall see thy full-eyed love? When thou shalt look us out of pain, and one aspect of thine spend in delight, more than 1,000 suns disperse in light in heaven above.
Emily, could I read that a second time?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, like, it's hard to absorb that.
It sure is.
In one reading.
It sure is. Read it again.
So, youth, middle age, and then elder age. Is that the idea of the three parts?
The entering into heaven, right?
Okay. When first thy sweet and gracious eye vouchsafed even in the midst of youth and night to look upon me, who before did lie weltering in sin, I felt a surged night delight, passing all cordials made by any art, bedew, embalm, and overrun my heart, and take it in. Since that time, many a bitter storm my soul hath felt, even able to destroy, had the malicious and ill-meaning harm his swing and sway. But still, thy sweet original joy sprung from thine eye, did work within my soul and surging griefs, when they grew bold, control, and got the day. If thy first glance so powerful be, a mirth but opened and sealed up again, what wonders shall we feel when we shall see thy full-eyed love, when thou shalt look us out of pain, and one aspect of thine spend in delight, more than 1,000 suns disperse in light in heaven above.
Oh, it's so good. So it's titled The Glance, right? And he gets just a taste of God's glance at the beginning of the poem. Yeah? But he says, what wonder shall we feel when we shall see thy full-eyed love? Not just a glance, a full-eyed love. When thou shalt look us out of pain. What a line.
What a
look
line.
Us out of pain. And one aspect of thine spend in delight. More than 1,000 suns disperse in light. Isn't that great? So the glance moves from all he needed was just a glance to start his heart afire. That glance kept him going through the bitterness of his life. Yeah. But now he knows, you shall look us out of pain. Oh, so good. So I just wanted to read you a little bit about how George Herbert has been received. Yeah. Because it just shows his power and why any amount of time spent in his poetry will feed your soul. My priest was telling me that one of his professors from college kept John Donne and George Herbert on his bedside table because they were what he awoke every morning to. He just decided, these poets know so much of God. I want to meditate on their experience. So here's what T.S. Eliot said about George Herbert. All poetry is difficult, almost impossible to write. And one of the great permanent causes of error in writing poetry is the difficulty of distinguishing between what one really feels and what one would like to feel. Verse, which represents good intentions, is worthless. On that plane, indeed, a betrayal. The greater the elevation, the finer becomes the difference between sincerity and insincerity, between the reality and the unattained aspiration. Holy cow, that is so true. Did you try to write poetry as a teenager?
Oh, it sounded like every other bad high school poem.
Because it is the unattained aspiration. Okay, back to T.S. Eliot. And in this, George Herbert seems to me to be as secure, as habitually sure as any poet who has written in English.
Wow. You can read the confidence almost.
Well, also that he is never making that mistake. He is speaking of the sincerity and the reality of his experience. He is never writing unattained aspiration, right? This is what he has experienced.
Yeah.
Okay. W.H. Auden says this. Great as he is, I find Donne an insufferable prima donna. Give me George Herbert every time.
And the Donne in there, that's John Donne, who we talked about earlier.
Yes.
Donne, John Donne.
Elizabeth Bishop, who is also a great American poet, carried Herbert with her always and loved his way of turning over a problem, looking at it from all sides, examining his own soul. He was her godfather in poetry.
Really?
Simone Weil attributed her conversion to Christianity to the poem Love 3.
I had no idea.
A recent biographer writes this. She argues that the reader not be a Christian to appreciate Herbert. In fact, she quotes Huysman to the effect that, quote, good religious poetry is likely to be most justly appreciated by the undevout, end quote. Whatever the truth of that assertion, the fact remains that admirers of Herbert certainly include non-Christians who have sufficient reasons for valuing his poems. So another scholar marveled at, Herbert's technical skill. He said he has surprising fusion of wit and piety. He was a Cambridge laureate and knew the conventions of courtly love poetry well, but he adapted them to devotional subjects with no effect of incompatibility.
Wow.
So I want to try something out. It may work, it may not. Our listeners can tell us, but I would like to read some of his poems, just like we read The Glance, and just talk about them a little bit.
I'd love that. Yeah.
I'm going to start with The Agony, because The Agony is actually a poem I am currently memorizing, because I read it this week and I was like, this is so amazing. So here we go. Let's read The Agony. I'll read first and then you read. Sound good?
Great.
Philosophers have measured the mountains, fathomed the depths of the seas, of states and kings, walked with a staff to heaven, and traced fountains. But there are two vast, spacious things, the which to measure it doth more behoove. Yet few there are that found them, sin and love. Who would know sin, let him repair unto Mount Olivet. There shall he see a man so wrung with pains, that all his hair, his skin, his garments bloody be. Sin is that press and vice, which forceth pain to hunt his cruel food through every vein. Who knows not love, let him essay and taste that juice, which on the cross a pike did set again a brooch. Then let him say if ever he did taste the like. Love in that liquor sweet and most divine, which my God feels as blood, but I as wine.
What a beautiful payoff. The end, the last two lines. You mean to read it?
Yeah.
The Agony. Philosophers have measured the mountains, fathomed the depths of the seas of states and kings, walked with a staff to heaven and traced fountains. But there are two vast, spacious things to which to measure it doth more behove, yet few there are that found them, sin and love. Who would know sin, let him repair unto Mount Olivet. There shall he see a man so wrung with pains, that all his hair, his skin, his garments bloody be. Sin is that press and vice which forceth pain to hunt his cruel food through every vein. Who knows not love, let him essay, and taste the juice which on the cross a pike did set against a brooch, Then let him say, if ever he did taste the like. Love, in that liquor sweet and most divine, which my God feels as blood, but I as wine.
It's just an incredible poem. What is it that strikes you in that reading of that poem? Oh gosh.
It's a great poem. I don't know that I can. I'm going to struggle a little bit with this.
Okay, go ahead.
For me, the whole poem has this really nice rhythm to it. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But it's those last two lines that just secure and gather the whole thing together.
I think of this poem like a funnel, right? we start out at the beginning. Philosophers have measured the mountains, fathomed the depths of the seas.
Really broad.
So broad, so abstract. And he says, there's these two things that nobody can measure, sin and love, right? And then we get into these really strong, compact images. Like sin is that press and vice, like a wine press, right? Which forceth pain to hunt his cruel food through every vein. Like sin is pressing through Christ's body, right? Christ is in the wine press. So good. He uses that image, the press and vice. Then he says, the juice that's being poured out of Christ, it's love. It's love. That's what we're having. My God feels it as blood, but I drink it as the wine of communion for sure, right? Oh my gosh. Like that image, he's giving us such a powerful image to think about. The line, which forceth pain to hunt his cruel food through every vein, like that is an incredible line. What an amazing poem. Okay, can we read another one?
Yeah, before we leave it, sin is that press and vice. I mean, such a picture of the potential of pain.
Yes.
That also doubles as a wine press that squeezes the grapes.
Exactly.
And it's working in both senses at the same time.
Exactly.
And there's a kind of reversing that all this pain of the press and vice results in love that in that liquor sweet and most divine, which my God feels as blood, but I as wine.
Yes. So also the veins, right? Like the blood coursing, which is also that picture of sin making its way. Like Christ takes the sin into his body and feels it as pain. The compactness with which, so he's an amazing master of antimony, of holding these opposites together. And there's always this turn in his poems where just like that, those last two lines, right? All of a sudden it turns in this thing that's horrible and costly, and the embodiment of suffering and desolation becomes the avenue for love that I experience as something delightful and beautiful, right? And it's like best held together in poetry. I was reading one of my current living favorite theologians is this bishop, Eric Varden. And he was talking about that in his book, Healing Wounds, that you can't, that's the only proper way to describe something that's this powerful. You must use poetry, because trying to explain it too carefully with prose misses the power of that experience, right? And I think that that's what Herbert does. He holds these things together, these things that should fly apart. How is it that deep suffering should be a source of love? How is that, right? But he holds them together through poetry, and it's such an amazing gift.
I want to say I think this is for you, Emily. This is a personal theme.
Is it?
Yeah. I don't want to get too far off topic, but there are a couple of things that you have recommended that I read, and they are kind of in the same, pardon the illusion, they're in the ssame vein.
Well, it's probably how I'm trying to make sense of my life, right? Just like Herbert did.
Right.
Okay, Virtue. Let's read this poem. Sweet day, so cool, so calm, so bright, the bridal of the earth and sky, the dew shall weep thy fall tonight, for thou must die. Sweet rose, whose hue angry and brave bids the rash gazer wipe his eye, thy root is ever in its grave, and thou must die. Sweet spring, full of sweet days and roses, a box where sweets compacted lie, my music shows ye have your closes, and all must die. Only a sweet and virtuous soul, like seasoned timber, never gives, but though the whole world turn to coal, then chiefly lives.
Mm.
Your turn.
Virtue. Sweet day, so cool, so calm, so bright, the bridal of the earth and sky. The dew shall weep thy fall tonight, for thou must die. Sweet rose, whose hue angry and brave bids the rash gazer wipe his eye, thy root is ever in its grave, and thou must die. Sweet spring, full of sweet days and roses, a box where sweets compacted lie, my music shows, ye have your closes, and all must die. Only a sweet and virtuous soul, like seasoned timber, never gives, but though the whole world turn to coal, then chiefly lives.
There's the turn.
So is that a pattern in all of his poetry, or is it just these poems that we've read?
Oh, I would say it's a pattern in all of his poetry.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? He speaks of these beautiful things that we experience as such a gift. The daytime, beautiful day, a beautiful day, but it's going to die. It's going to go to night. A rose, it's so beautiful, but it only lasts such a small moment. It dies. Yeah. Spring, even spring that we get to experience for a few months, even that dies, right?
Yeah.
Only a sweet and virtuous soul, like seasoned timber, never gives, but though the whole world turn to coal, then chiefly lives. Oh, the turn, right? The unexpected turn.
Help me. Only a sweet and virtuous soul, like seasoned timber, never gives.
I think seasoned timber, I'm guessing it's like preserved wood or even evergreen trees, right? But though the whole world, or seasoned timber, the whole world turned to coal, it's been preserved, right? Because charcoal is burned wood.
Yeah, okay.
It lives. Okay, I'm not going to read. I was going to read to you Love Unknown. I'm not going to read it to you, but I'm just going to walk it through, because one of the things that is so deep for Herbert is this sense in which he had, that awakening to God's love as a young person. So many plans, so many hopes. I think all of us can relate to this. And then came his life, and his life was not the bed of roses that he felt it might be, the glance that God gave him. So this poem, Love Unknown, here's how it starts. Dear friend, sit down. The tale is long and sad. And in my faintings, I presume your love, and more comply than help. Okay, so now he's going to tell you his sad story. He has a Lord, implication being God, and he brings him an offering. Herbert brings him an offering, places it, and instead the Lord says, I want your heart. So he gives him his heart, and his heart is baptized in water and dipped and dyed and washed and wrung. The very wringing yet enforceth tears. And God says, your heart was foul, I fear. So his heart has been cleaned. Ah, good. But then he walks abroad, and he sees a spacious furnace flaming, and with a great letters on it called affliction. And he's like, oh no. And his heart had to be taken again and was put into the cauldron affliction. So then, he is burned in the cauldron, and he says, okay, but I made it through that. Oh, but then he comes to the thorns. Dear, could my heart not break when with my pleasures even my rest was gone? Full well I understood who had been there. So now his heart is going to be picked and pricked and softened. So here is what God says to him. Mark the end. The font did only what was old renew. The cauldron supplied what was grown too hard. The thorns did quicken what was grown too dull. All did but strive to mend what you had marred. Wherefore be cheered, and praise him to the full each day, each hour, each moment of the week, who fain would have you be new, tender, quick. Okay, maybe we should do... How much time do we have, Tim?
9 minutes.
Let's do the wreath, and let's end then with Love 3. So we're going to end with Love 3 because that is my poem, and that was Simone Weil's poem, somebody who we're going to be talking about soon.
Very soon.
And the wreath is an amazing, we'll talk about its form after we read it. So following similar themes, let's just read this. A wreathed garland of deserved praise, of praise deserved unto thee I give. I give to thee, who knowest all my ways, my crooked, winding ways, wherein I live, wherein I die, not live. For life is straight, straight as a line, and ever tends to thee who art more fair above deceit. Then deceit seems above simplicity. Give me simplicity that I may live, so live and like, that I may know thy ways, know them and practice them. Then shall I give for this poor wreath, give thee a crown of praise.
Should I read that one, or do you want to go to Love 3?
No, read that one if you will.
The wreath. A wreathed garland of deserved praise, of praise deserved, unto thee I give. I give to thee, who knowest all my ways, my crooked winding ways, wherein I live, wherein I die, not live. For life is straight, straight as a line, and ever tends to thee who art more far above deceit than deceit seems above simplicity. Give me simplicity, that I may live, so live and like, that I may know thy ways, know them, and practice them. Then shall I give for this poor wreath, give thee a crown of praise.
Okay, so the wreath is composed like a wreath. Did you get that?
Oh, I did not get that.
You can see
it kind of circles on itself? Is that what you're saying?
It circles on itself, right. So a wreath garland of deserved praise, of praise deserved. So you can see it clearly when you're reading it. But every line that ends, the next line begins with those words. A wreath garland of deserved praise, line 1. Of praise deserved unto thee I give, line 2. I give to thee, yep, who knowest all my ways, line 3. My crooked winding ways wherein I live, wherein I die, not live. Do you see? And so then we get all the way down to the bottom. Know them and practice them. Then shall I give for this poor wreath, give thee a crown of praise.
So this is why, for me, reading poetry with somebody else is so... I just miss that. It's so much more rewarding when you've got one or a few people.
Rewarding. Yeah, so the wreath is a wreath. Do you see it? He made it a wreath. He makes it a wreath. He circles around. He is the master developer. We didn't read Easter Wings, but Easter Wings, he writes like two wings. He sets out the words, and it looks like two wings on the page.
It looks like an hourglass, like two hourglasses stacked on each other, but if you turn it sideways, those hourglasses look like angels' wings.
And actually, in my collection of poems, that's how it's printed. It's printed sideways.
It's printed so the lines are going vertically. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, here comes the pièce de résistance. This is what
it is.
This is what the church ends with. Okay, so we've been going through his struggles.
The temple. What the temple ends with, you mean?
No, the church.
Oh, so got it. Remember, the section within the temple.
Sections within the temple. Yeah, this is how the church ends. This poem. Love bade me welcome, yet my soul drew back, guilty of dust and sin. But quick-eyed love, observing me grow slack from my entrance in, drew nearer to me, sweetly questioning if I lacked anything. A guest, I answered, worthy to be here. Love said, you shall be he. I, the unkind, ungrateful? Ah, my dear, I cannot look on thee. Love took my hand and smiling did reply, who made the eyes but I? Truth, Lord, but I have marred them. Let my shame go where it doth deserve. And know you not, says Love, who bore the blame? My dear, then I will serve. You must sit down, says Love, and taste my meat. So I did sit and eat.
I'll read it. Love 3. Love bade me welcome, yet my soul drew back, guilty of dust and sin. But quick-eyed love, observing me grow slack from my first entrance in, drew nearer to me, sweetly questioning if I lacked anything. A guest, I answered, worthy to be here. Love said, you shall be he. I, the unkind, ungrateful, my dear, I cannot look on thee. Love took my hand and smiling did reply, who made the eyes but I? Truth, Lord, but I have marred them. Let my shame go where it doth deserve. And I know you not, says Love. Who bore the blame? My dear, then I will serve. You must sit down, says Love, and taste my meat. So I did sit and eat.
Yeah, that poem was so the food of my soul when my son was sick. Because, I mean, I guess it seems counterfactual, but that experience of God's love came deeply to me in that place. And that is like, it's so deeply beautiful that through all of his struggle, like it's so painful. We didn't read Grief, where he just says, like, God, you're killing me. Like, you're killing me. Like, I can hardly live. The affliction that I am experiencing is so deep. But this is how he ends. And that is why he is in our section on God's love. Because at the end of the day, for Herbert, the love of God is the end. That is the end, right?
Yeah.
There isn't anything else. Nothing else is really worthwhile in this life. And he's not going to sugarcoat his grief
or
suffering, how much he feels afflicted. But he also, in the end, knows love is the final word. That's the end. So I think we should take a break because I have to blow my nose.
Okay.
Hey, Tim, how's your play?
Emily, the play was performed last week. It was really good.
That's great.
It was really good.
We're all rooting you on.
Thank you. The play's title is My Name is Soren Kierkegaard. I feel like I would love to check in with you about this play a little bit because there's a lot of people who are like, okay, what happened? What's happening? What's going next? What's going next? And it seems like every week there's some new thing, whether that be funding or a conversation with a theater or a conversation with an arts conference. So it's really nice to ask. It was really nice to just see the thing. We've been preparing for it for so long, but to see it's on its feet. Granted, it was a scripts in hand performance, not a full performance. That won't happen until next summer, but it's really gratifying to see it on its feet. I'm really proud of it. I think it's a really good play.
It's so exciting. I can't wait to see it.
Emily, is it time for your hot take?
It sure is. Here's my hot take. George Herbert is an avant-garde artist. There you go.
There it is. Okay, make a short defense for that.
Well, this lowly, I mean, he seems the farthest thing from an avant-garde artist, right? But he is developing new forms. I mean, we didn't read any of the poems from his wordplay, but he has this one. Anna, in the middle, Mary, Army, Graham. Okay. And the poem is 2 lines. And, oh gosh, I should have my book so I can read it to you. But it's just the play on the word, how is Mary the first Christian, or Mary is a mighty army in which the Lord pitched his tent, right? So he plays back and forth on army and Mary. So he does things like that. He has a poem on Jesu. And in English, from Latin, I and J are a related letter, right?
Yeah.
So it says I-E-S-U, like Jesu, but it's using the I. And he plays on those words to become I ease you. Do you see how he used the letters?
Oh.
Jesus, I ease you. He plays on the letters there. I mean, he's so creative. He makes the altar. I mean, he's before the, free poets. He never is like eschewing rhyme or meter. He's always using rhyme and meter, but he's always doing different forms. He never just writes a sonnet. He's making the altar where it actually looks like an altar, right? He's doing Easter wings where it actually looks like church wings. So it isn't, I guess, any wonder that these modernist poets all loved him, because he is making the form serve his meaning, right?
Yeah.
He's not a slave to the form. He's not slavishly instantiating. He's using the form to further the meaning that he's getting at. Trinity Sunday. Guess how many lines Trinity Sunday is composed of?
I'm going to guess 3.
Well, 3 stanzas of 3 lines each.
Huh.
Right?
Huh. Yeah.
Trinity Sunday. 3 stanzas, 3 lines each. So, you know what I mean? Like he's embedding meaning deeper and deeper. The wreath that is actually a circle, right?
Yeah.
He's making every part of it mean something.
Emily, I want to hear, do we have rapid fire questions for the show?
We sure do. Doesn't feel really appropriate with George Herbert. Like,
maybe we need to skip them this episode.
No, but they're good ones. They're good ones.
Okay.
And I'm glad you have to answer them. Okay, poetry or prose?
Poetry.
Great. That was the right answer. Herbert or Donne?
Good. Donne is so dense to me. And Love 3 kind of beats everything else all time.
Great.
Yeah, so I'm going to say Herbert.
Okay, now this is a hard one. Herbert or Gerard Manley Hopkins?
Gerard Manley Hopkins.
What? Okay.
I have attended. Hey, you asked. I told the truth.
No, I know. I couldn't decide who I would have answered. Rhymed poetry or free verse?
Oh, rhymed poetry.
Thank you. English or German poetry?
Oh, gosh.
Come on, there's a right answer here. Yes.
Is there?
English.
Okay.
We're English. We speak American.
We speak American. Emily, this was a different podcast for us, but I liked this.
Well, good. I hope
slowing down.
We were slower because we actually inhabited the poems. Hopefully,
sure did.
Hopefully our listeners approve. Sorry, listeners, if it was too slow for you. Everybody
Emily,
should sit with poetry.
We're down to our last 2 podcasts, the next 2.
We sure are.
Julian of Norwich and Simone Weil. I'm looking forward to those last 2. We want to thank Mark Gooby, our producer, and Tom Hagerman, who wrote and performed our music. Devochka has a concert coming up, right?
They've got a new album coming out. We'll have to talk about it. I just saw it live.
No kidding. Okay, we'll do a little shout out in subsequent episodes for Devochka. Tom Hagerman, primary mover in Devochka. Emily, thanks so much for this.
Great talking to you, Tim.